today's chair, Nina Riccio, will introduce the program. Nina?
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us, and my apologies to, first of all, our panelists and to our audience for our technological glitches. I'd be the first to tell you that I'm really not that good with technology, but I'm not entirely sure this one was on me. To the extent that I have any responsibility, I do apologize. This is, I think, the third time. Joe can correct me, but I think this is the third time we've had Okra students appear. Joe Liberti is the head of Okra for the students, and what we have asked him to do today is to introduce the students who are doing an amazing amount of research and work on wage theft, which is a far more common problem than people realize, and certainly affects residents in our community. And it's a very tough issue. And these students have taken it upon themselves to explore the issue, explain the issue, and now bring it to your attention. I would ask, though, in addition, because we've had questions, that Joe take a couple of minutes at the beginning to certainly introduce the students, tell us a little about them, but also to tell the community what exactly the original Civics Research and Action Program is. It's a fabulous program. As I said before, they have appeared, we have had 3 programs with different students and different presentations, and every one of them, I'm awestruck by the amount of work and the brains and the hard work and the effort. And it's a remarkable program. So congratulations to the students, congratulations to the school district, and congratulations to Joe. So on that note, you don't really want to hear from me. So the only other thing I want to say is we will save about 10 minutes at the end of the program to allow for questions and answers. So just to the audience, use your icon at the bottom to raise a hand so that we will then know. We will try to get the people responding in the order in which they raise their hand. So with that, again, my apologies and thank you to the students and to Joe Liberti. Here you go. It's all yours.
Okay. So I'll just jump in, just say a couple words, but I do want to leave the bulk of the time for the students who are obviously the reason that everyone's joined today. So again, my name is Joe Liberti, and thank you, Nina, for that wonderful introduction. I am the founder and director of the original Civic Research and Action Program. I founded this program about 5 years ago. It's a 4-year program starting in the freshman year and moving students all the way up through their senior year. The objectives of the program are to help students, build a stronger sense of self-efficacy, really helping students not understand that they themselves have the power, but when they join together in groups, they have a lot more power. It's also trying to help students build it's a term I borrowed, something called creative confidence, all right? Trying to understand and build students' ability to kind of take on problems that don't have clear solutions, right? So kind of building that what we call creative confidence. Obviously, along the way, helping build sort of that important skill set. Often these skills are referred to as quote unquote soft skills, but I think we all agree that these are some of the most important skills that students can take with them as they transition from high school to the sort of next chapters in their lives. And then finally, along the way, students are having the opportunity to build leadership skills, not only within their groups, but obviously within contexts like this, where they have a chance to sort of, speak to the community, take on an issue that they care about and try to affect change. Ultimately, we're really trying to do within Okra is build civic capacity, is the hope that these students leave with greater civic capacity so that they really become change agents in the larger world. In short, what we're really trying to do here within the Okra program is to sort of leverage the passion and interest of students with the wisdom and expertise that exist out in the community. And kind of bringing those two together really is an opportunity to build and create what I call civic entrepreneurs. And so that's really the sort of purpose of, again, original Civic Research and Action. So Ben, Leah, and Jack are seniors in my Okra program, and they have been researching on the issue of wage theft. And I think the approach they've taken, which is a very positive approach to what can be obviously a difficult issue, I think is really a testament to sort of both who they are as people, their concern for the community, and their work within Okra. So with that, I'll turn it over to them.
Thank you so much, Mr. Liberti, and thank you everybody for coming this morning. I'm wondering if I could possibly share my screen for the presentation, please. Let me see. All right, great.
Yay.
Yeah,
Sorry.
we got-
When
we got-
technology works, I get very excited.
No. All right, so our whole entire initiative, we are part of OKRA. We are OKRA Wage Theft Prevention. We're using education to fight wage theft. I'm Leia.
I'm Jack.
I'm Ben.
And this is our project. So we wanted to kind of start off by talking about our roots and where we started in this whole entire program and project. So as Mr. Liberti said, it's a 4-year program. So the first year, our freshman year, spent learning about the community, learning about issues within the community, and just really diving deep into everything, like everything local. I mean, we've been to walks to the harbor. There are things there that you wouldn't expect to ever be there. Whatever we've done it all. So coming into our sophomore year, we were asked to choose a particular interest of ours that we found to be a prevalent issue in the community. And Ben, Jack, and I all had workers' rights interest. We all had a concern for workers' rights, and we were all interested in it. So income inequality was a big thing as well, and just simply the wage difference in our community, like in between Larchmont and Mamaroneck. So this is how we came together under the common workers' rights interest. And so this stage, sophomore year, our second year in the yoga program is extremely based in just research on everything. So as you all know, workers' rights is an extremely broad topic, and something that we just saw reoccurring in our meetings with the Community Resource Center of Mamaroneck, many lawyers from around the world, and the Westchester Assistant DA, we found that wage theft was a recurring issue that we thought we wanted to lean in on and zoom in on, and that's what we did. So yes, that is how we started, and everything just went on from our research with wage theft.
Leia, before I speak, I don't know if this is just for me, but I think the slideshow still says loading on the screen share.
Here
Yeah.
too.
Can you?
Okay. I'm not sure. I could try to reload my
There,
page.
I can.
There you
Well, I
go.
can see it now.
Oh, you
but
can see
it's
it now?
not. But it's just not presented. But I can see it now.
Oh, it's not present. Okay, so maybe what if I just do? All right, so I think we'll just have to be like this. Is that okay, everybody?
It's fine.
Okay.
I'm reading it.
Yeah, maybe
Alright.
just zoom in a little bit, Leia.
I can't without changing the slide.
Okay, all right, that's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine. It's
Okay,
fine.
no worries. All right, so one of the first things we looked into when we picked the issue of wage theft to research was the laws in New York State, especially in Westchester County. But one New York State law that really stood out to us as being a good law actually is this 2010 Wage Theft Prevention and Recovery Act. So it establishes criminal and monetary penalties, as you can see. So it really, shows how serious wage theft is, and establishes that New York State will prosecute offenders, and that employers who commit wage theft will have to face serious repercussions. And then in 2014, there was an amendment to that law that sort of doubled down and increased the fine, so that employers would be even more disincentivized from committing wage theft. So this was a law this law and this amendment were something that we thought was positive, and we were just concerned about whether it was being followed. But we at least felt that we could advertise this law and show this law as something good, and something that we need all of our employers to follow in Mamaroneck and across the state.
Can I move on to the next slide, Ben?
Yeah.
So county enforcement and local assistance. So there are a lot of great resources available here in the county for workers. In March of 2021, the Westchester District Attorney's Office launched a multilingual hotline. The hotline is available for a wide variety of workplace crimes, one of which being wage theft. And the DA's office and Mimi Roca have done a lot for wage theft, and I've recognized that wage theft is a very commonly occurring issue, but is extremely underreported. And they hope that the hotline can work on changing that. We'll get to this a little later, but we have done a little bit of promoting that hotline. As you can see, the hotline is there at the bottom. It really is a great resource. We think it's a great resource that should be used more. And the county district attorney's office will take any legal action it can upon a call. Another great resource for workers is the Community Resource Center in Mamaroneck. They have a workers center that is dedicated to assisting victims of wage theft. And they're particularly helpful for undocumented workers, as they offer a safe place for workers regardless of immigration status. And a major issue for both the county DA's office and the CRC is the desire of their clients to remain anonymous, which makes it difficult to press charges. So that is an issue that we have seen people face, but the DA's office and the CRC try to work around it and do the best they can to help these workers.
So, excuse me. So to go over employees' rights, employees who are victims of wage theft have the right to ask an employer to address a possible violation of the labor law. So an employee, no matter what your employer says, you're allowed to pursue your employer in the sense to question them and ask them about your rights and make sure that they know what they are doing. File a complaint with the New York State Labor Department. Pursue all wages owed either through the Labor Department or through private legal action. Regardless of immigration status in New York State, you are allowed to, you are owe your full wages, no matter your documentation status. If you have completed hours of work, you are due your wages. Testify in an official proceeding under protection from state labor law. Not be retaliated against when exercising an employee's rights. And again, to emphasize, all New York State laws apply regardless of documentation status when it comes to labor laws.
So, sort of unsurprisingly, we found that undocumented workers are the primary victims of wage theft, especially in Westchester and Southern New York. And this is partially just due to the culture around undocumented workers in this country and in this area. There's misunderstandings on the part of the workers, and there are misunderstandings on the part of the employers. So, sorry, many undocumented workers think that they have no options, that if they leave their job that they have now, that they'll never be able to find work again, and they won't be able to provide for their families or for themselves. And so they stay in jobs where they're not being paid what they're supposed to be paid. And then most of these workers have come to this country within the past few years and may not speak English so well, are not hyper aware of their rights. So employers take advantage of that, and they sort of act in a way that's against the law, thinking that the workers may not know. And a lot of the times they don't know. In some cases, there are really egregious offenses that are obvious to the workers, but wage theft is a really complicated issue, and so employers may take action against, or may steal wages in a way that the workers do not realize. And then last, undocumented workers a lot of the time are afraid to take action once they realize that they have been the victims of wage theft, and they don't use great resources, especially in Westchester, like the district attorney's hotline or other community-based groups, because they're afraid that they'll be deported or they'll be somehow penalized for their immigration status. And so they will keep silent about these really horrible instances of wage theft, because they just sort of feel as I said before, that they have no options.
So more needs to be done. So wage theft is a very prevalent issue. It is the largest form of theft in the United States, with 2.1 million victims in New York a year alone. And so many of these workers stay silent about the injustices they face in the workplace, such as wage theft, out of legitimate fears of retaliation, and as Ben was saying, for undocumented workers because of their documentation status. And we found many of these workers either do not know about or do not know how to access the many existing resources here in the county and the state. And this lack of knowledge and awareness is why we thought we could come in and make a difference in this issue. We thought, and yeah, so we're really looking to spread awareness about the issue and advertise the resources and try and help out these workers. And in some cases, workers will attempt to regain lost wages, but will fail to do so due to lack of legal counsel and or full understanding of their rights, which kind of further emphasizes the importance of education on the law and workers being aware of their rights.
So to talk about our outreach and awareness programs, because mainly during all our research, we realized that the most effective way for us to have an impact in our community in regards to wage theft was through educating the community, and that comes through awareness and outreach. So we need to get the word out, just like Jack was saying. So our first goal in the initiative was to educate, as I said. So one of the first steps that we did for outreach was a PSA that we made through with the help of LMC Media. And this PSA, we took an approach towards the employers to start building the relationship that we now have with local business owners, which is a positive relationship and a mutually beneficial relationship. We also shared our PSA through the Mamaroneck Schools District's email spread out, which contains 13,000 emails. And with this email, we included our research, PSA, and our goals for the project. Is it all right if I play the PSA? Do we have enough time for that?
Let's try.
Sure, let's do it.
Let's see. Oh, sorry, everybody. I'm just gonna. Okay.
Small businesses are a vital part of our local economy, as well as providing quality goods and services. These businesses create jobs for members of the community.
Sorry, I don't know if we can all see the full screen.
Yeah, I don't can see it.
Oh, you can't see the full screen. Okay, let's see. What about this? Can you guys see this?
I can see it. I
Yeah.
assume others can.
Okay, so I'll play it from 10 seconds.
Services. These businesses create jobs for members of the community. Owners in Larchmont and Mamaroneck must treat their employees with respect. This means local business owners need to pay all of their employees all the money they are due. Immigration status, quality of work, duration of work, and type of work do not exempt employers from paying workers state minimum wage, as well as full overtime pay, which is time and a half. While it is your choice to employ undocumented workers, once you have, these workers are entitled to the same pay as documented workers. Undocumented workers are protected by New York state labor laws. There are no exceptions to this. Failure to pay employees is called wage theft and can result in serious legal consequences, such as heavy fines and even jail time up to 1 year. All employees may report instances of wage theft to the State Department of Labor and are entitled to all stolen wages once their case has been settled. Local workers are as integral to the Larchmont Mamaroneck community as our small businesses. Business owners, do the right legal thing. Pay your employees what they are due, at least minimum wage.
Great. So thank you again to LMC Media for that. Sorry, I'm just trying to zoom back out. We'll see if my computer works. Maybe not, but just to wrap up this part of our sorry. So I am going to go here very quickly to see. Sorry, everybody. I think that today was just, made for technical difficulties. But anyways, yes, we received very positive feedback from this PSA and from the emails. Which just led us to continue using outreach and awareness to spread education. So this was kind of the stepping point in our project where we realized that education and outreach is what will work the best for our community. Ben, you're on mute.
Sorry, I don't know I was on mute. So that was sort of our entry point to this issue or to this project being in public. And what we wanted to highlight with the PSA and our emails was that it's not legal to hire undocumented workers, but once you have to pay them what you would pay any other worker. And so that PSA was sort of directed at just the business owners, but then when we took from there was we wanted to do something larger so that we could reach a broader audience. And so this was a first and our so far our biggest awareness campaign that we thought was sort of a creative take on this issue. So obviously wage theft is a negative thing, and it's something that often goes not spoken about. And so we wanted to shine a positive light on it. That was the phrase that we were using. So we were working with a few local businesses on Mamaroneck Avenue to bring positive publicity to restaurants that followed the law, New York State labor law. And so we went to these businesses, just simply walking up and down the street, and asked them if they'd be willing to sign a pledge. And on that pledge, there were it was about a page or page and a half of New York State labor laws that they needed to follow as restaurants. And we asked them if they'd be willing to sign it, saying that they were following these laws. And we also asked them to show us that they had the New York State posting requirements hung up in a easily visible part of the restaurant. And if you're don't know what that is, the New York State posting requirements are basically just it's like a big poster that you would hang up in an establishment that outlines New York State laws, minimum wage, just general worker information. And it's required for all New York State businesses to hang that up in their store. So we asked that they do that. And this wasn't a legally binding pledge. It was more of like a check-in and a reminder for these businesses. And we didn't necessarily check with them that we didn't look through their books or anything, but we sort of did like a background check beforehand with the CRC. So we knew that any business we were reaching out to already was ethical. And so then once a business agreed, we would give them a sticker they could put on their front window. It was our seal of approval. And you can see it on the bottom right there. So that was sort of a sign to people walking down Mamaroneck Avenue, like that this is a good business. This is somewhere that I should patronize. And so we hoped that it would help the businesses get more patrons. So then we also promoted those businesses on social media. So this was sort of the mutually beneficial relationship that Leah had mentioned before. So we were getting these businesses to sign on to our initiative, which was putting the issue of wage theft out into a broader audience for people on Mamaroneck Avenue, shoppers to see, and also for businesses to be more aware of. And it was also, in some ways, accountability. And then, on the other hand, these businesses were getting publicity from us. So we were posting for them on Instagram, where we've had a good following of Mamaroneck High School students who will be more, who may have forgotten about this restaurant, and then they see it on our Instagram, and then they think, oh, like, let me, go to this restaurant now. So it was sort of like we got what we wanted and they got something that they wanted.
And also here's a sticker presented on the screen. If you see any businesses with that sticker, that is the Ethical Business Project.
Our ethical business initiative garnered some local media attention. We Patch News, a local news article, they interviewed us and then wrote an article about the issue of wage theft, a little bit about the issue of wage theft, and a little bit about our group and the work we've done, and a little bit about the ethical business initiative. Here Leah is scrolling through, and they also included our pledge. And so this was a great, not only did it publicize the work we've done in the initiative, which was obviously great for the initiative, but it also kind of spread more awareness about the issue of wage theft as a whole, which again is the whole purpose of what we're doing. And then soon after that, News 12 interviewed us and did a segment with us for their Labor Day piece. And yeah, so Leah, you can show that.
Yes, you can keep on talking while their ad plays, but
so again, this was also very big for helping to spread more awareness about the issue. A lot of my parents' friends were seeing this, a lot of our teachers and friends, and so it kind of just got people talking about the issue of wage theft. And it's because it's really an issue that not many people know about, not many people talk about. So the media attention was really great for bringing the issue to the forefront.
yes, and this reach just started in Westchester, News 12 Westchester, and it reached all the way out to Long Island, the Bronx, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the Queens.
Well, some Mamaroneck students are recognizing Labor Day by taking what they're learning out of the classroom and into their community. News 12's Veronica Jean Seltzer brings you along on their mission to stop wage theft.
Wait, how many APs are you guys taking? It's the eve of their senior year. We're all pretty excited about states, but these Mamaroneck High students are using their last hours of freedom, guys, look, to work on Labor Day, working to help workers. 2 stickers. The stickers are part of their ethical business initiative. Looking great. It's a project these 3 have been working on since they were freshmen as part of their original Civic Research and Action (OCRA) class.
We're looking to shine a positive light on a somewhat murky issue.
They chose to focus on workers' rights, specifically wage theft.
It's really gone under the radar.
What is it? Pretend you're paid in pizza. You're promised all of your wages, tips, overtime in a whole pie, but instead you're just given a measly slice.
People need to get paid. The group says they learned 19% of low-wage workers in the state will face some sort of wage theft.
One thing that we always hear is that employers don't know what they need to do, and employees don't know what they have the right to do.
So they made it their mission to educate with a PSA, a newsletter, and that ethical business initiative, rewarding businesses doing the right thing with a sticker and promotion.
Congratulations, keep it up.
Now they're being rewarded with a certificate from State Senator Shelley Mayer.
It's a wonderful example of what public education can be.
So yes, school starts tomorrow. But what better way to celebrate the fruits of their labor? Veronica Jean Seltzer, News 12.
Good for those kids there. Now, the students also worked on a
Great. Okay. So yes, that was from News 12. And Jack, if you are done with your slide, could I possibly move on to the next one?
Yeah, sure.
Great. So to wrap up our this presentation, we wanted to discuss our plans moving forward. So our end goal has always, as I spoke about, education and outreach. So how would you also being in school every day and simply the OCRA program taught us that the importance in education. So from the beginning, we kind of want to have something along the lines of a forum, and we are finally going to be able to do that. So we have organized a workers forum in association with the Community Resource Center and help from many other different partners. And we have many professionals speaking as panelists, and we wanted to utilize the local enthusiasm from the Ethical Business Initiative. We want to use this momentum that we've been getting press-wise to hold this forum while we have the public's attention, the local public's attention. And so just to also have that forum date out there, it is February 4th, 2023, obviously. Happy New Year, everybody. At 3 p.m. at the Mamaroneck Public Library. This forum is targeted towards workers, so it is for workers' rights. It is for anybody who, if you have been a victim of wage theft, or if you think you're susceptible to being a victim of wage theft, or if you simply want to learn more about your rights to make sure that you're never in a position where you could be taken advantage of and end up in a position where your wages have been stolen or you haven't been paid full price, same thing. You should definitely come to this forum. It is a public event, so we will also be we plan to hand out notebooks for workers to be able to write down their hours, information that they have learned at the forum, and to use for whatever working plans they have in the future. Clearly, there will be, so the idea of the forum is to educate in the sense knowing your rights, and also what is wage theft. What are the different forms of wage theft? As Ben mentioned previously, there are so many different forms of wage theft. You may be experiencing wage theft and not realize it because of how complicated and layered this issue is. So yes, we will be completely diving into wage theft in this forum. And just to repeat that, that's February 4th at 3 p.m. at the Mamaroneck Public Library. And in the future, we are hoping to have a forum for employees in mid-2023, depending on how this forum goes. So we will keep the community updated about that. But for now, the Workers Forum is happening February 4th at 3 p.m. at the Mamaroneck Public Library. And that is our presentation. Thank you so much for having us. Thank you.
And then, sorry, just to quickly to wrap up and say something. First of all, the employers forum is going to be hopefully in the future, not the employees forum. That's this forum. And then, so this is just a more direct education campaign that we think is sort of a natural stepping point from the Ethical Business Initiative. So thank you all for listening to our presentation, and feel free to ask any questions.
I'm going to jump in with the first question, and that is on this forum. Is there going to be a Spanish translator?
Yes,
okay.
There will be.
So all of our speakers speak Spanish, so they can translate for themselves. And then every time that we are speaking, as in Jack, Leigh, and I, we'll have a translator.
I also have a question, and the question that I have has to do with, have you been finding, which I assume you have, that one of the means of keeping employees who have been the victims of wage theft quiet, have you found that it's a matter of a threat concerning their immigration status and a threat concerning reporting that immigration status to the appropriate or inappropriate authorities, depending on how you look at it? Is that what you have discovered in your research, and how is that something that can be addressed?
Yes, that's definitely a factor for sure. And that is just a murky area of our justice system and law system, however you want to see it, because the laws do slightly contradict themselves, just in the sense where you can, no matter your immigration status, you are owed your full wages, no matter, if you worked certain hours, if you did a certain amount of work. But then again, we have laws against retaliation, but it's hard to implicate them when Also, many people don't even know that there are laws against retaliation, even if they do know their rights in the sense that they are owed what they worked for, they owe the wages that they worked for. But so yes, to answer your question, yes, that has definitely been an issue in our research that we found to be a continuous issue in our research that we will be addressing the forum in the sense of what to do, how not to experience this retaliation, what are the sources, what law implications do you have to, what roads in the law system and justice system can you take to not be retaliated against. But yes, it is definitely an issue.
And often I think it's more of a threat than something they'll actually do. Of course, sometimes there are cases where immigration services are actually called, but I think often it's the employers know that their workers are terrified of being sent back to their home countries or being separated from their families. And so they use that to sort of like manipulate their workers and tell them like, if you go to the Department of Labor with this, I'm going to call immigration. And it might be just an empty threat, but to the worker, it's still scary and there's no way of knowing, especially because in this state, there are laws against retaliation and it is not legal to call immigration on a worker because of something that happened in the workplace. But still, it can be complicated, and it's obviously a really scary thing for the workers.
Yeah, and retaliation is obviously a big issue for undocumented workers, but we also find even for workers that don't have the issue of documentation status to worry about, we find that retaliation is still a big issue and a big factor for workers staying silent. Even just in general, the employers will threaten to fire them for or retaliate against them in general for speaking up and trying to gain their lost wages back, again, which is illegal. But retaliation is definitely an issue.
I'm going to check the chat box and see if there are other questions. There was a comment at about 8:31 followed by a question at 8:47 from Jeannie Sullivan, who said, are there any comments on updating laws, usually federal, to allow asylum seekers, immigrants to work while their case is pending? And how can residents help? So if you could address Ms. Sullivan's question.
So we sort of focus more on New York State labor law than federal labor law, which is why for this forum that we're working on, we have brought in an expert on federal law and federal labor law, who is a former U.S. Department of Labor employee. She was an investigator in Phoenix, Arizona. So I would say I'm not entirely sure, but we have resources at our disposal so that if an issue surrounding this ever came up, we would have someone to reach out to get answers. But generally, I think that what we find in these cases are either that the employee has some sort of documentation status or doesn't. We have of course, there are, I'm sure, instances where there's an in-between where they're waiting on their legal status, but I feel like often it's sort of either they have it or they don't. And so we haven't really run into that issue yet, but it's definitely something that's interesting that something we can look into.
And as far as how can residents help, I think a major issue with wage theft is that it's so under the radar and really a lot of people don't know about it. And so that's why what we're trying to emphasize is spreading awareness, spreading the word. And I think for residents, just kind of knowing about it and telling your friends and telling your family and spreading the word about the issue and the rights of workers and the issue of retaliation and that, it's illegal and all these sorts of things. The awareness really does make a difference for these workers, and spreading the knowledge really does make a difference for these workers.
Yeah, and I also just want to add that a lot of forms of wage theft are done. Most forms of wage theft are, a lot of them are under the table. So it's in between an individual and a worker who, let's say you ask somebody, well, we have a story that we tell when people ask us about more individual, not through businesses, but an individual and a worker, how a wage theft scenario there. We Ben interned at the CRC this summer, and we were told not a story, this really happened. A man was asked to shovel a driveway, and there was an agreed upon number for the man to shovel the said person's driveway. And the worker worked all throughout the night, and it just kept on snowing, but he kept on working, kept on shoveling, etc. And then come morning, the employer said that he wasn't satisfied with the worker's work and didn't pay the worker a single thing. So when the worker could have been out making more money, or simply not, it's labor, you want to get paid for it. In some instances, you need to get paid for it. It's the difference between paying rent, not paying rent, having food, not having food, etc. So that's a really terrible story, but it's also like the worker had almost no means to bring that to court, because there was no contract, there was no proof even if it's through as little as a text message agreeing on an agreed upon price. Even if the employer isn't satisfied with the work, the worker still needs to get paid. So we see a lot of cases happen without a contract, without anything that can be brought into a court of law. So I think that's something else that will be very emphasized in the forum. And just to bring it back to the residents, I think that many people might not be aware that they are committing wage theft. So I think that it's extremely important to insist that your neighbors, their neighbors, etc., inform themselves on wage theft and on how much they should be, beyond morally, legally paying a worker to do a more private job, and also insist on like having certain things written down, having agreements, etc. And yeah, I think that's really important for residents, and I know that I talk about that a lot when this project comes up. I try to get it out there that even privately, wage theft is extremely prominent, and this is how you can not do that and how you can spread the word to your neighbors not to do it.
So then I also see this next question. Have you done any follow-up with individual workers or with the CRC to see what happens after wage theft is reported? So yes, we have. A lot of the time, these cases take years and years to be worked out with the Department of Labor. So a lot of the time, workers will go straight to the CRC and ask for legal help with mediations, not working with any sort of governmental organization, just because there are so many bureaucratic slowdowns. And so it can be easier to work directly with, a lawyer with the CRC and a lawyer and the employer's lawyer. So that's happens all the time. And that's often the most successful way that employees will get their money back. And often it's not all of the money, it's just part of the money that they're due. But when you are desperate for money to support your family, a lot of the time these workers will take whatever they can get and whatever they think is fair enough for the theft against them. And then when workers go to the Department of Labor, it can take years, but they also are so many slowdowns in that department. So a lot of the time they will not get their money back at all. And it's sort of a last resort. And when workers go to the Department of Labor, when workers go to the Department of Labor, they often struggle to they often don't feel comfortable, and then they often have to deal with a lot of legal work and paperwork and stuff that they might not feel is worth the time. And so sometimes employees will go to small claims court. That's an easier way to get their money back. But in general, workers will feel most comfortable and find the most success going to community organizations like the CRC, just because it's the fastest way. But it's honestly, it's not very easy to get the wages back that were stolen, even though you have every right to those wages. It can just be very complicated.
I see there's another question from Ann McAndrews. Oh, wait.
Yes, I see it
Yes.
right here. How do you prove wage theft, for example, for a day worker? So I think that relates exactly to my example that I gave before. It's extremely difficult to do that if you do not have anything written down. Even we've seen cases been brought to court off of a text message, but it's hard to be successful off of such little evidence. So that is why in the forum and just right now, I'm emphasizing so much writing down a contract agreement. It's great, word of hand is great, it's like a handshake, that's awesome, like in idea, and the ideology of it is great if we were all moral people who whatever knew the laws, but at the end of the day, you just, not to say that you can't trust anybody, but for your own good, you need to have it down in writing. It's as simple as writing a text to somebody like, okay, so let's agree on with the contact number with their contact number, whatever, and you can prove that it's their contact saying, okay, let's agree you pay me this amount for this day for this many hours, great. Or having a written agreement and asking the said employer to sign it. And if you're getting any retaliation from the employer, to have proof of what they said they'll pay you and for how many hours of work they'll pay you, I think that that's right away a pretty big red flag that you should stay away from that employer and try to find work elsewhere, just in this, because any employer that's hesitant to do something as simple as that, because I mean that's just really, it's the bottom baseline, especially for one-on-one working. I mean, we know that legally there are many applications that you need to fill out for a job through a business or through a company, etc. But sometimes there are jobs that are given under the table. If you're getting a job under the table, you're not gonna, something's going on there that shouldn't be going on there. But just in the sense of day workers and private one-on-one businesses, business, get it down on paper, get it down on writing, and make sure that you can show that this is the person, either through having their exact contact number and name or getting a signature down. Or even getting a video, a voice recording, anything, because it's extremely hard to take it to court if you only have he said, they said, whatever, word of mouth. So that's the most important thing. That's essential, actually.
I don't see any more questions out there. If someone has a question, please submit it right away, because I think if I'm not mistaken, Elena, we're just about at the end of our hour.
We are at the end. I want to thank our panelists, Leah, Ben, Jack. You did a wonderful job in enlightening all of us. It's something that really impacts the community on a private and public level. And we're very, very grateful for not only this presentation, but the work you've done and already done with the stores and the stickers and the PSAs and so forth, of wonderful quality. So thank you for this. I want to thank our audience for sticking with us. Sorry for the late beginning of this program, but this happened. Again, I want to thank everybody and hope that you will be with us next month when we will look at the impact on the community of our immigrants and refugees that are coming to this area and what that means to all of us. So thank you again, and thank you, Joe, for this program that you are an ongoing presence for.